Come on, come on. Dude, stay with the target.
Okay, okay.
Yes! Come on.
One more round?
Sure.
Okay.
The Philippines may be new to the global game industry, but it's had a really colorful and dynamic start.
Our game developers have a real edge when it comes to creativity, flexibility, and trainability here in the Philippines. We are very versed in both the Eastern and the Western style of drawing and humor even.
We actually know where they're coming from. We know what an ogre is. We know what princess is, a castle. It makes the creative process faster. Some of us already have AAA experience, and it's been growing. We are ready to collaborate. Our clients will find that you can harness all the talent in the Philippines and have it delivered to them using the most international of business languages, and that's English.
There's just so much talent out there, and there's so many opportunities for these talents to be showcased in the global arena.
There is an openness right now with how we deal with the government that is absolutely amazing. That's why we've gotten so far in such a short amount of time.
What we are very proud of at the moment is our growing passion of creating original games.
We have the right culture and the right type of people here to produce original content.
In the colorful world of game development, you can be sure that here in the Philippines, we create more.
Dude, stay with the target.
Okay, okay.
Yes! Come on.
One more round?
Sure.
Okay.
That hurt.
Hey, what's out?
Wow. Hey, check this out.
What's that? It's an animation loop?
Oh no, you broke it.
I did not.
Yeah, it just exploded into lines of code by itself then.
You!
Hey, you guys made it. Exciting, right? This is at the heart of every game. Literally. So, how's it feel to see it firsthand?
What? You mean?
We're inside the game? I know this is code, but how does it all work? Can you teach me? I want to make something.
Me too. But I don't know if I want to code.
Don't worry, there's a lot that goes into making a game, and coding's just one part of it. We've got a job for nearly everyone. Artists, musicians, developers. There are a lot of opportunities for people of all talents and interests. And without them, we wouldn't have a game. Oh, listen to me going on and on. How about I just show you? Every game dev, publisher, and studio may have their own way of doing things. But one remains the same. Begins with a dream. Writers who take those ideas and create vibrant worlds and characters. Developers who bring those worlds to life. And hey, did you know that many of your favorite titles were made with the help of talented Filipinos?
Whoa. Oh, I played this game.
And with some hard work and dedication, you can be one of them.
I'm so excited. I think I need to work harder.
Yeah, I mean,
Game development is challenging as it is exciting. The Philippines may be new to the global game industry, but it's had a really colorful and dynamic start.
Our game developers have a real edge when it comes to creativity, flexibility, and trainability here in the Philippines. We are very versed in both the Eastern and the Western style of drawing and humor, even.
We actually know where they're coming from. We know what an ogre is. We know what princess is, a castle. It makes the creative process faster. Some of us already have AAA experience, and it's been growing. We are ready to collaborate. Our clients will find that you can harness all the talent in the Philippines and have it delivered to them using the most international of business languages, and that's English.
There's just so much talent out there, and there's so many opportunities for these talents to be showcased in the global arena.
There is an openness right now in how we deal with the government that is absolutely amazing. That's why we've gotten so far in such a short amount of time.
What we are very proud of at the moment is our growing passion of creating original games.
We have the right culture and the right type of people here to produce original content.
In the colorful world of game development, you can be sure that here in the Philippines, we create more.
No, come on. Dude, stay with the target.
Okay, okay.
Yes! Come on.
One more round.
Sure.
Okay. Sound.
Wow. Hey, check this out.
What's that? It's an animation loop?
Oh no, you broke it.
I Did not.
Yeah, just exploding into lines of code by itself then.
You.
Hey, you guys made it. Exciting, right? This is at the heart of every game. Literally. So, how's it feel to see it firsthand?
What? You mean?
We're inside the game? I know this is code, but how does it all work? Can you teach me? I want to make something.
Me too. But I don't know if I want to code.
Don't worry. There's a lot that goes into making a game, and coding's just one part of it. We've got a job for nearly everyone. Artists, musicians, developers. There are a lot of opportunities for people of all talents and interests. And without them, we wouldn't have a game. Oh, listen to me going on and on. How about I just show you? Every game dev, publisher, and studio may have their own way of doing things. But one thing remains the same. Every game begins with a dream. And game development is about making that dream a reality. Artists, animators, video editors, and writers who take those ideas and create vibrant worlds and characters. Developers who bring those worlds to life. And hey, did you know that many of your favorite titles were made with the help of talented Filipinos?
Whoa, I've played this game before. You mean to tell me a Filipino studio made this? That's awesome.
And that is correct. Behind every game is an amazing team of people. And with some hard work and dedication, you can be one of them.
I'm so excited. I think I need to work harder.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta go to practice, but for now, I've gotta get back to studying.
Yes!
That's the spirit. But remember, game development is challenging as it is exciting. So you've got to work harder. Well, thankfully, we've got a bunch of really great schools that can teach you what you really need to know. So, the next game is about to begin. Are you in?
So there you have it. Even you can do it. Come on and game there with us. What?
Hello. So before we start, let me confirm lang po if my audio is clear, loud and clear po on your end. Can you please type 1 on our chat box po if you can hear me loud and clear so that we can get started po with our session this afternoon. So yan, we are 319 and counting here in the Zoom room. And of course, I'd like to remind everyone that we are also live through our Facebook page, the 𝗖𝗺𝗃 Region 5 Camarines, and we are also live po sa aming YouTube channel. So that's the 𝗖𝗺𝗃 Camarines. So just in case you got disconnected po dito sa ating Zoom, so you may opt to watch this webinar po on so and I think my audio is good. I think it's time for us to start with the opportunities, of course, in partnership with the Game Developers Association of the Philippines. So later on, to those who are interested to know more about GDAP, of course, our speaker, Sir Chen, will be discussing this quick information about their group and how you can be able to join, or at least if you are interested in the field of game development industry. So this is for you. So ayan, couple of things before we start. Yan po. So let's have first an invocation po to be followed by the singing of the Filipino national anthem through this audiovisual presentation.
Kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Now, before we start with our session, so I'd like to remind everyone to please accomplish this attendance link flash on the screen. We will also be sending the attendance link po on our chat box and even po sa aming Facebook Live so that you can be able to fill out the attendance link. And make sure to fill out the attendance link to be part of the raffle later. So of course, we have a raffle Steam key to be raffled po later on. Of course, courtesy of GDAP. So you will know po what this team key is and kung paano siya gamitin later on. I'll be discussing it. But for now, I'd like to enjoin everyone to please accomplish this attendance link po posted on our screen. So yan, I think my colleagues will just forward po the attendance link po sa ating chat box. So make sure you fill out this one po. Okay, so for our webinar to be more smooth going, so I'd like to remind everyone po with the following house rules. So for our participants and to our viewers, kindly observe proper conduct during the program. Again, this event is currently being live streamed on the DICT Region 5 Camarines Sur Facebook page and on our YouTube channel. So just search po DICT Region 5 Camarines Sur, then makikita niyo po yung aming Facebook lives. So yan, should you have any questions or comments or you find relate to what the speaker is saying, and services, we would like to request everyone to accomplish the evaluation form to be shared after the event. Certificates will be given to those who will successfully accomplish the evaluation form. Then for the certificate, it will be available at most 5 working days. So ayan, I hope you get to bear with us in terms of the processing of the digital certificates. For we sometimes receive a huge number of participants, kaya minsan natatagalan lang po siya. But rest assured, it will be sent once it's available to your email. So make sure na correct po yung inyong details in filling out the evaluation form so that we can avoid yung incorrect information po na ma-indicate namin sa ating certificate. So yeah, let's head over po with our session. But before that, again, I'd like to remind everyone with our naming convention. So for us to address you properly later on our Q&A or an open forum session, please follow this naming convention po. So that's first name, space, your last name. So yeah, at least we get to address you later on this in case if you have any questions. So yeah, I understand that most of our participants are students. So can you please chat on our chat box ating Zoom or even sa ating Facebook Live po if where you are watching from, saan kayo nanonood and from what school, so that we get to see lang yung ating profile of our participants. And of course, our speaker could also have an idea with that. Yeah, so let's keep the chat box on fire later on. So we hope that you get to interact with our speaker. So yeah, so let's just check some of the message po sa ating chat box. Yeah, I guess it's really more of students po yung ating participants this afternoon. Once again po, welcome sa mga kakapasok pa lang. And feel free to share po yung aming Facebook Live feed and our YouTube channel so that we get to reach more in terms of the game development industry. Right, so let's keep the ball rolling with our program. So let us hear a welcome message, of course, to be given to us by our provincial officer of DICT Region 5 Camarines Sur, Ma'am Maria Peña Francia Alna Pomasena, for a short welcome message po to everyone.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to the Games Development Association of the Philippines, headed by Sir James Law, for granting our request to conduct this webinar, and with no other than Sir Solon Chen, the Vice President, as our resource speaker for today. I am really excited to hear the talk of Sir Chen, as I have always been in awe of game developers. I still remember ang first gaming experience ko noon when I was still in college is yung mga DOS-based games pa, yung Pac-Man, Digger, mga uso pa nun yung mga game shows na ginawang computer games. So, yun yung noon pa lang believe na talaga ako sa mga nagde-develop ng games. And dream ko nga noon na maging isang game developer. Kaya lang naging frustrated ako actually sa programming. So, hindi ko na tinuloy. So, hope everyone here will be inspired by Sir Chen's talk. And ang gusto ko lang is, aside from being inspired to develop games, I hope that all of you, yung mga game developers and would-be game developers, will someday also consider yung paggawa ng mga responsible paggagawa ng mga games na kino-consider yung responsibility nila when it comes to doing games na makakapag-contribute sa development ng bata or ng mga gamers, and not yung mag-lead into hindi magiging maganda yung effects. Kasi ako din as a parent, naging problem namin is nakaka-distract talaga ng studies yung pagiging mahilig na sa gaming na ng mga kabataan. So, yun lang po. I hope when you develop games, you will also take into account kung ano yung magiging contribution nito sa development ng mga gumagamit ng games. So thank you very much and welcome everyone.
All right, so thank you very much po, Ma'am Pinky. So ayan, I guess let's head over po with our session. And of course, at this juncture, I'd like to introduce to you our resource speaker for this afternoon. So Sir Solon Chen is the Vice President of the Game Developers Association of the Philippines and the co-founder of 𝗂𝗚𝗄𝗴 Philippines. So to discuss all about the introduction to game development and career opportunities, help me welcome po sa ating Zoom and ating virtual session si Sir Solon Chen. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
Good afternoon, sir. Yes, sir. We can hear you po. And sir, so
Okay, yeah.
give the floor to you po. Yes, sir. Thank you
All
very
right.
much po.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. So I assume everyone can see the screen that I'm sharing already. Is that the case?
Yes, sir. We can see it po.
Okay. Yeah. My name is Solon. I'm actually the technical panel member for game development animation in 𝗏 and also vice president for 𝗓𝗏. And I also run my own studio. Okay, I'm a co-founder and studio manager for 𝗂𝗚𝗄𝗡 Philippines. So yeah, 𝗂𝗚𝗄𝗡 basically it's an independent game company that been making our own games for the past decade. And that's all we do. We just make games for ourselves, okay, and then put it on the store for everyone to play. Yeah, one of our most popular game is called 𝗏𝗏𝗏. So most likely a lot of you have already seen it or play it without knowing that actually it's done here in the Philippines. Okay. And yeah, earlier I think like a lot of the speaker earlier have mentioned about 𝗓𝗏. So many of you might be thinking like, oh, what is 𝗓𝗏? Okay, so 𝗓𝗏 is Game Developer Association of the Philippines, and it's actually a trade association established in 2007 to represent and promote the game development industry in the Philippines. It's composed of a lot of digital game companies and services providers and technology studios in the country. Both foreign and local has strong ties to the government and also other supply. And we also work closely with the other government agencies. And our goal is to help Philippines to become the #1 destination for anyone who wants to make games. Okay, so that means no matter you are someone who's in US, wants to make games and need the help, or if you are independent creators, okay, you just like to make your own games, here is also where you can build your teams, okay, with your friends, okay, to start your first game. So here are some of the members and affiliate members that we have. As you can see, there's actually a lot. In fact, I don't think it fits everybody. So this is not actually everyone. There's actually more. And I would like to point out, okay, both Mazur and Spark Point are from Kamsur. Okay, so Mazur is in Naga and Spark Point is actually in Legazpi. Aside from that, we also have a lot of academic members. Okay, again, okay, this is not the complete list. Okay, so most of these schools have a BSEMC course. Okay, it's a bachelor's, 4-year bachelor's degrees on game development. Okay, it's called Entertainment Multimedia Computing. Okay, some of the school doesn't have it yet, but they do have some shape or form of game development specializations or majors in their other existing courses too. Okay, but of course, BSEMC is dedicated entire 4 years to just making games. And of course, we have some members from CAMSOR. Okay, we have Ateneo de Naga and also Naga College Foundation, okay, that are part of the GDAP. All right, so yeah, if you want to learn more about game development related courses, okay, you should look up on the internet and check out the schools that actually offer game development as specialization or BSEMC courses. All right, so these are some of the games that the GDAP members have been part of. Of course, we didn't make the entire game. Okay, we make some parts of the game. Okay, some of you might be familiar with these titles such as Cyberpunk, okay, Uncharted, Gears of War, Tomb Raider, and recently very popular because of the TV show, right, The Last of Us. And of course, like we also work with Blizzard, like Diablo 2 Resurrected. So these are some of the work that we work together with the people outside the country for those big games. And internally, okay, there are other games that we build in the Philippines, which is 100% Philippine-owned original IPs, such as Mecha Blitz, Vita Fighter, Barangay 143, Letters, Let Esquire, and Bayan. So these are just some of the examples, but definitely there are a lot more local produced IP through our members. So if you have some time and you'd like to try out some Filipino theme games and Filipino main games, you can try them out. Okay, so earlier we talked about what the GDAP is, and GDAP actually work closely with other government agencies. As you can see, like of course, okay, we work closely with DICT, who thank you for hosting this particular event, and also with the BOI, DTI, CHED, and TESTA. So these are government agencies that we work very, very closely all the time. So what do you mean, like, what do you think when actually the government agency is working together with you? Okay, that means they think that this is an industry that will grow, and this is an industry that has a lot of potential. And it is in our nation's strategy, okay, to promote this industry. Okay. So what makes GDAP very unique? Okay, why people in GDAP are unique is because we are comprised of people who love games. Unlike in other industries, okay, you might do it, but it might not exactly what you love. But in here, almost everyone who builds games love playing games. Okay, our biggest issue is always we have to make a choice of like, are we going to put more time in playing game, or are we going to put more time in making games today? So every day it's a struggle. Okay, I want to play more, or am I gonna make my game? Oh, it's always like that. Yeah. So every day, okay, that we do is all about games. Okay. So in order to talk about more about game as an industry, of course, first is we have to understand what a video game is. Okay. This is important because I think like especially in a province, okay, maybe like for you, when you hear the word game, you feel like it's something that you play. You think about Clash of Clans, right? You think about Mobile Legends, but that might not be the case for your parents, okay, or someone who's much older. When they heard the game, they might think about gambling. Okay? But to be specific, okay, what GDAP is about video games. Okay, it's not about gambling kind of stuff. Okay. So what is a video game? Okay, a video game is a software program in which one or more players make decisions through the control of game object and resources in pursuit of a goal. Okay, so very, very important here is it's actually a software program. Okay, it's a software program. Okay, therefore, like in order to make a software program, you need to people who knows how to do programming to make the game. Okay, and what makes the game so different? Okay, game is basically a marriage between art and technology. You need both in order to build it. It's a way of expression. Okay? It's kind of like a book where there are stories. You can tell stories through the game. Okay? Although not all the game necessarily have a story. Okay? It's a way to make yourself feel happy. Okay? It's a way to show what you wanted to show others. In fact, like games have so many different genres. As you can see on the slide, there are things like shooter, fighter, or sim games, platformer, or even RPGs. Okay, and of course, we play a lot of MOBA, right? Or people who like racing games, strategy games, okay, or even shooting games, right? All those games, different genre of games is actually very different when it comes to making them. They aren't very similar. They do share some core skills when you start to make them, but ultimately they could be very, very different when you try to make them. And that's why they are very different. And actually each genre is very hard to make. So if you're very good at making shooter, it doesn't make you automatically good at making fighting games, yeah, or horror games. So chances are, what you notice is certain company, they might be good at certain type of game. And the tendency is they might keep on making similar type of games. Okay, next. Okay. Last but not the least, when it comes to games, the most important differentiator between games and other softwares is that games is all about experience. It's all about experience. So unlike the software where you use in the bank or you use on a website, it's about getting something done. Okay? But in here, it's about experiencing something. Game is the only medium where you can step into someone's shoes and see the world in a different, in that person's perspective. So that's what makes it different. So how do you actually make games? Okay. So this is a slightly much more simplified version of how usually a game is being made. Okay. So first you have development, then you go into pre-production, production, testing, and launch. So during the development, you're basically creating the idea of the game. Okay. You're just coming up with an idea again. You are not like coding, okay, or drawing a lot of stuff. Okay, it's very, very simple. It's just the idea itself. Okay, how the game should work, more or less. What's the premise of the game? Okay, all of these starts in the development stage. Okay, and once, of course, that gets passed, okay, you go into the pre-production stage. That's when you start to create storyboards. You have to prepare the scripts. You have to make the game design documents, and you also have to lay out all the developments that you have. So let's during the pre-productions. And later on, once you have all of that, then you go into production. That's where you need to have people who knows how to do game programming. Okay? And you have to create starting to create art assets that's going into the final of the games. And for those games that have a lot of animations, especially in 3D, it will involve people like doing motion captures. Okay? And they have to do cleanups and animations. Okay? And once the game is almost done, okay, usually even like during the development stage, the testing already started. So we'll do a lot of quality assurance, debug and testing. And after that, that's when we were able to launch the game. But when we're launching the game, there's a different group of people that's in charge also. These are the people who's in charge of promoting the game, distributing the games, and doing all sorts of marketing. And there are services also, okay, that are taking care of that, such as customer support. So if you buy something or you got stuck in a game or the game is buggy, then there's someone who's answering you. Okay, so all of those come from there. And of course, the marketing people will involve those who's doing community management, etc. So as you can notice that there are different color mark layer with a battery icon. The green one is a one now we are much better at doing, and we have much better idea how doing it. The red one are the ones like we are not very good at, especially when it comes to original IP. Okay, of course, like usually if someone else's IP, we're only involved in the production, or let's just say Gears of War, well, we're only involved in the production. We're not involved in the other part of it. Okay, so less of an issue. Okay, but the red part is the one that we're weaker on currently, and that's the part which we still have to work on in order to improve our original IP and the chance of success for our original IP. To summarize, most of the jobs are divided into these 4 categories. So we have the art, people who are very art-minded. Then of course you go into animation or the game art design. And there's also designing. So when we say designing in game, we're not talking about the drawing. Right? It's more on the rule of the game, the rule of the world. So you're creating a world, creating the rule of how the game should be played. Okay. So that's usually what we refer to when we say a designer. Okay. It's different from the artist. Okay. Next one is the development. The development side, usually we're talking mainly about the programmers. Okay. So the programmers are the key to making it happen, because remember, at the end of the day, it's still a software program. So without programmer, nothing can happen. Technically speaking, you can still have a game without art, just like what the earlier speaker said. They actually build game using command line. Their game runs on command line. So it's not really nice looking. Okay, it's just using text to form a drawing. Okay, it's not the art like what we see nowadays with our game. Okay, so programmers are definitely important. Without them, you won't have a game. Okay. And the next part is the marketing and management, of course. So these are the 4 main categories of jobs that's related. And of course, aside from this, there are always the usual jobs, such as HRs. Okay. So out of these jobs, if you really expanded it, there's actually a lot of different roles. So this is not a complete list. It's just some of them that we listed out. Also, it depends on what kind of company that you join. If you join a smaller company, tendency is the expectation will be you have to do more things. You have many, many different roles combined in one. Okay. And if you are joining a very, very big company, especially multinational companies, your job becomes more specialized because they just have like so many people. Okay, so these are some of like more specialized work. Even the programmers on the first column is full of different kinds of programmers that you could possibly have. But then again, okay, in the Philippine setting, most likely there aren't as many divisions. There are divisions among programmers, but it won't be as specific as this. And same thing, even for artists. Are you going to be in 2D? Okay. Are you going to be in 3D? Okay. So these are already very big difference. Yeah. And even for 2D, there are people who just, even in 3D, there are people who just specialize in doing modeling. They don't do anything aside from doing modeling. There's another person who just does texturing. And there are people who just rig, okay, and another person who actually animate the whole thing when they put together. Okay. Even for artists, you're not just drawing the concept arts, you also have to animate the characters, the 2D characters that you have, or you're the ones who's doing the UI. And there's also people who are hybrid, where they are semi-programmers, semi-artists. Okay, so they are called the technical artists. Yeah. And of course, there are always like producers, UI, UX designers, okay, which is actually very, very important for games. Especially nowadays, a lot of games that you play on your phone are free. So UI, UX becomes even more important. And like we said, like designers are not actually artists. Okay. There are level designers if your game has a lot of levels. Okay. And there are, if you have bigger games, your games would have directors for your cinematics. Right. And there are story writers who write the story. So usually the story writer is not the developer themselves, okay, or the game developer themselves. They usually will have someone who specialized in writing the stories. Why? Because usually if you are an artist who specializes in drawing, or you are someone who likes programming, that doesn't automatically make you a very good writer. Okay, so if you want your game to be good, you leave it to someone who's specialized and who's very professional in writing stories. Yeah, and of course, most of the games have music, so you would need to have music composers. You need to have sound effect designers. Yeah, and some of the bigger games, they would have voice actors, right? Because all the character has voice. So it's not necessary just in the cinematics, but inside the game, right? Sometimes they shout whenever they do their special moves. There are games that even include singers, so the game actually have songs. Some of the bigger game, of course, they have to have band and orchestra to play the music inside the game. And there are also people who specialize, who loves math, okay, would become the person who's in charge of monetization, because they have to think about, okay, so now there's a game, then how do we make money from the game? Because if we make the game and then we were not able to recover money, then how are we going to continue the project or make the next project? Because everyone involved has to get paid. They have a family to support, right? It's also a job at the same time. So they have to think about, okay, so how do we monetize? How do we make money out of it? And of course, there are also QAs. Okay, QA, you can be a QA for art and animation. So you're someone who's very keen, has a very keen eye when it comes to art related. So you know there are small defects or something looks wrong or looks off. And there are also a lot of QAs who's doing QA for hardwares. So that means they design the test plans are based on the hardwares. Okay, so it's relatively easier when it comes to phone, because phone is fixed. Okay, you just need to have more phones, more different kinds of phone. But for PC, it's very difficult because there's so many different kinds of CPU, so many different kinds of GPU, and you also have to worry about different drivers that people use, etc., etc. So QA for hardware is actually a lot of hard work. But if you like building computers and testing out stuff on computers, that is a very, very good kind of job to be in. Yeah, and there's also QA for gameplay, so they actually check everything, and sometimes they even write scripts, okay, to automate the testing. So you might have a character who's running around, okay, trying to figure out where you would get stuck, right? So those whole process can be automated if they write a script, which is like a tiny robot that runs inside, okay, and checks which point will get stuck. Those who likes data can also be hired in game company as data analysts. So in there, basically you look at the numbers every day, like how many people play this particular level and how many people play this particular part of the game, and how many people actually got this item, how many people did not get this item, and when do they do certain things. So that's why you have you work with the data, and that's what data analysts do. And usually the data analysts bring these back to the game designers. And then the game designer will look at it and change some part of the design of the game, okay, to help the game run smoother. Then, of course, there's also player support, like we said earlier. Okay, if you are stuck in the game or you buy something, it didn't work, okay, usually you talk to the support, right? And then there's also community managers. Okay, they are the ones who checks out the Facebook, and sometimes it's the Discord. And sometimes on Twitter. And of course, you have marketing personnel, okay, who would talk to others, okay, about putting ads for the games, okay, or put it on TV, or talk to the streamers, okay, to see, like, to make a partnership. So these are just some of the jobs. However, right now, okay, in the market, the most demanding, okay, the one that has a lot of demand is actually the 3D artists and also the programmers. So if you want to get your hands dirty and wanted to make the games, be part of the team, okay, definitely like 3D art and also programming is the best place to be. Okay. However, if you simply just want to get involved in part of the game company, now not necessarily on making it, then you don't necessarily have to go for those. You can go for sample for QA, right? You can always do that for QA because your job is to play every day. But that's your job to figure out if there's anything wrong when you are playing, and you have to come up with creative ways of checking it. Or there are other possible positions that you can get in also that are not directly related to art and programming. However, like I said again, usually art and programming is the ones that you would able to find opening easily. Okay, so yeah, so again, it's for the art and programming. Okay. So a little tip about joining game development company. So game development company is actually an entertainment company that uses the technology. So technically speaking, it acts like a showbiz, but then at the same time, everything that it does is more like a software company. And game development business and game as a whole, making game as a whole is actually very hard, really, really hard. So if someone tells you that if you can play game, then you can become a game developer, that means that person probably doesn't have experience making games. Yeah. Every game developer will tell you that if you know how to play game, that doesn't make you a game developer. Becoming a game developer is real hard work. Okay, so you have to study hard. Sometimes it might involve math. Sometimes it involve physics, because remember when you are playing Counter-Strike, right? When people get shot, or sometimes they fly out, it looks very realistic, dragged out physics. Yeah, looks really cool, but someone wrote it because they have to study the physics and recreate that inside a game so that people can see it. Yeah, so that's why it's actually very hard work. So tips on what you should do. Okay, so first is, if you want to get into the game, make sure you build a solid foundation. Okay, make sure you build a solid foundation. So what does that mean? There are a lot of tools out there, okay, that you can use to, let's just say, build some games. However, if you are very serious about it, okay, those tools is only an extension of what your real knowledge is. So for example, you're an artist, you know how to use Photoshop, but when you don't have a Photoshop, you don't know how to draw, then you will have a problem. The real good artist should be able to draw anywhere using any kind of tools that they have at their disposal. Right? They should be able to draw with pen and paper without the need of a Photoshop. So it's the same thing for programmers. Okay, maybe you have some tools, you have some APIs that make things easier, but you should understand the principles of how they work. And that's why the foundation is important. Don't over-rely on the tool. Okay, it's the fundamentals that would help you get through all of these. If you're very good at it, no matter how the tool change, you will always be able to adapt easily. And that's what's important in games and in technology, because things just evolve very, very fast. Okay. But they would never deviate from the basic principles. The basic foundations will always be the same. Okay. Next one, practice a lot. Yeah, if you want to be in game development, you have to practice a lot. Okay. No matter you're a programmer or artist, you need to practice a lot. Even a designer needs to practice a lot. Okay. If you have friends who are into drawing and you ask them, how do you get better at drawing? They will always tell you, draw more. Just keep on drawing more. So it's the same thing for both programmer and artist. The more that you do, the better that you get. Okay. And also, what's important is when you're practicing a lot, you also get to build up a portfolio. So when you have a portfolio, you can easily show your potential employers, if ever. Yeah, so they were able to see what you have able to accomplish and what you have able to done, what you have done in the past. Okay, so make sure that you practice a lot. Okay, next one is be curious. Okay, so why be curious? Nowadays, like I think we are a little bit different, okay, from other generations. Our generations is the one that have all the informations on our fingertip. Yeah, we always have it. We just take out our phone and then we press few buttons. Then yeah, we can find the information that we need. It's the same thing with game development. Okay. You can find a lot of information about how to make games online, okay, through your phone. So the important thing is just keep on checking, keep on searching, and keep on learning new things, okay, from the internet. And if you, of course, like sometimes all you need is really a guidance of what to look at, guide you to the right direction. But at the end of the day, all the material is really on the internet. And another thing is, because the technology changes very fast, the tools of the game development also gets changed from time to time. So it's important that you know how to adapt and you know how to learn new things. All right. Next one, the tip is work as team. So work as team can mean a lot of things. Okay. So most of the time, the game is not made by one person. Most of the time, the bigger the game it is, the more people it's required. For example, a lot of the AAA game that you saw earlier, okay, like Cyberpunk, those involves hundreds of people. Hundreds of artists and programmers and all other positions have to work together to get that done. And it can take years. So you'll be working to 300 to 500 people and takes 3 to 5 years, okay, to just build a game. Yeah. So it's a very, very big team. So if you're someone who's not very good at working with others, you need to start now. Start practicing how to interact with others. Because to be honest, no one wants to work with an asshole, right? You want to be someone that everybody wants to work with. Okay. And another is the communication skills is very important. Yeah, because you can work well if you can communicate, especially when it comes to game. There are a lot of things that are a little bit abstract with pictures sometimes. So you have to able to communicate well. And this is especially true if you are working in a company. Most of the time, you do have to practice speaking English. Yeah, because a lot of people that you will work with when it comes to game development will not necessarily be all Filipino. Yeah. Most likely you'll be working with some team members that's maybe in Japan, in China, or in Singapore, okay, or even US or in Europe. Okay, so many different places. So the tendency is when it comes to communication, everybody would have to be speaking English majority of the time, no matter it's face-to-face, no matter it's in the chat or in the email. So English is usually the #1 language that's being used when you are making games. So make sure you practice it and get used to speaking and hearing and writing in English. Okay. So now, another question that a lot of people have asked before is that, okay, like I'm very interested in joining games, okay, or studying game development, but would I really able to make a living? Or like my parents says no, they think that I'm just playing, okay, and like how can playing games or making game actually make a living, right? That's very common because earlier we already discussed like what game really is, okay, and it's not really about playing. It's really hardcore technical skills that we're talking about. Okay. The next part is whether it actually can help you support yourself or not, and I'm sure that's also where most of the parents would ask. Okay. So how big have the game grown? So about a decade ago, game development is actually a 68 billion US dollar market. So not peso, it's a US dollar market. And then later on, 5 years later, it have grown to 116. And in 2018, it's 125 billion already. And then it grows again the year after, 152. And what happened during COVID, right? We all know like during COVID, a lot of the companies, a lot of industry couldn't work, right? Because COVID, you're locked down and then you have to try to work from home, restaurants closed, a lot of hotel closed. Okay. But for game development, we actually grown still. So we grow to 183 on 2021. In fact, in 2022, it's 220 billion US dollar market already. So that's just last year. Now, of course, this is a global market, right? And everyone said, oh, it seems a little bit far-fetched, right? Can we talk about something that's closer to home? Okay. So let's take a look at the ASEAN market. It was projected 5 years ago, 5 years ago before COVID, that ASEAN country as a whole would generate 4 billion on mobile. This is just the mobile market only, not counting the console, not counting the PC. It's projected to generate 4 billion. However, we actually surpassed that already. Yeah, we actually surpassed all expectations. So ASEAN countries' mobile revenue for games actually went over that. Okay, how about Philippines? Right? If we just look at Philippines. So by the way, you should remember that when you make a game, it's usually not just for one country. Usually your game is everywhere. It's global. Okay. But if we must look at Philippines, Philippines right now occupies less than 1% of that market. Yeah. We only generate about 1 billion US dollar from games every year. Okay, so what does that mean? That means, we have more places to go up, right? In fact, I think like a lot of people like listening to music, and a lot of people like to watch movie. So we all know that music and movie are very, very big industries. They're so huge, right? Multi-billion-dollar industries. But did you know game development is actually bigger than music and movie combined in a lot of countries? Okay. So yeah, definitely there's a lot of opportunities to be captured in game development. If you are someone who really likes to create things for fun, this is really the place to be. And as you can see that there is a special logo on top, it says Game Dev Philippines Create More. Like, have you noticed something about that particular logo? Yeah, it looks very similar to another logo that we have, right? Yeah, it's a one for tourism. Right? It's more fun in the Philippines. Yeah, so it looks very similar. The reason why it looks similar, it's not because I photoshopped the logo to make it look similar. The reason is because it's the same government agency that created the tourism logo, who created for the game development. So why do they create that? It's because the government understands that game development is really a place with a lot of potential growth in the Philippines. It's because we're definitely much more royal compared to a lot of our neighbors. Yeah, I'm not gonna say which country, but yeah. And another reason is because a lot of us can speak and understand English. Maybe not perfect, but at least much better than a lot of our neighboring countries. And next one, it's because we understand the culture much better than everyone else, because we are very familiar with Japanese culture, right? All the animes that we watch, we know them, and we play a lot of Japanese games also. And at the same time, we are also very familiar with Western culture, pop culture, especially Marvel, DC's, right? We're always watching those movies. So we're very familiar with all their culture. So when they say that, hey, draw me a cowboy, we know exactly what a cowboy is. Because if you do that in some other countries, they would really draw a boy sitting on top of a cow. Yeah, because he's a cowboy. But of course, we know what cowboy is. We don't have that kind of problem. Yeah. And last but not the least is everybody knows that us Philippines have some of the most creative people in the world. Okay. So where would you find this kind of industry where it actually combines all our advantages in one? Right? It's the game development. Yeah. And that's why that it's being promoted by a lot of government agencies also. Okay. All right. With that, I thank you. And I think we might have to go into the next part of the program.
Yeah, definitely, sir. So thank you very much, Sir Chen, for sharing that and helping us to take a look closer po sa game development industry. So we will head over po to our open forum or our question and answer. So if you have any questions po, feel free to send them po sa ating Q&A box or sa ating chat box po sa ating Facebook Live. But we already have some couple of questions po lined up. So let's start. I think we can start po with the first one. This is a question from one of our participants po. What are the usual programming languages being used in developing games?
Okay, very, very good questions. For game development, it's usually C family of languages. So it's C, C++, and C#. These three. Yeah. So if you really want to learn, try to start with C#, yeah, because that's more common. But if you want to be very, very good and very technically want to do really, really hard stuff, you have to go into C++ and C. Yeah. Java is a little bit, usually you use Java if it somehow involves Android. Okay? But if it doesn't really involve Android, maybe not. But that's for the client side, okay, that we're talking about. Okay, if it's server side, then of course, a lot of games are online games. We need servers, right, to run those things. So of course, learning how to do full stack is definitely very, very helpful when you are the ones who's handling the server side. Okay, and sometimes you have to do socket programming. Okay, you have to use Node.js also. Okay, you have to know databases also, because where would you save the data, right? How would you know the player's state, how much inventory that they have? What are the weapons that they put inside their bag, right? There's a database that keeps track of everything. Yeah.
All right. So thank you so much for sharing that, Sir Chen. So let's head over po to our second question. In creating indie games, how to safely avoid copyright issues? Any advice in terms of limitation in creating games with similar concepts from other games?
Okay. So when I just want to clarify a little bit. So if you're referring to like art, then obviously it's just create your own art, right? Like you won't have copyright issues at all. Okay. But in terms of concept, it's very hard to copyright the game concept. Yeah. And that's why there is a lot of games that have very, very similar gameplay. Yeah. So it shouldn't be a problem. So for example, what's MOBA, right? Where did MOBA come from? It started from Dota, right? But how many of MOBA-like games are you playing, right? You probably have played Dota 2, you play Hero of Storm, you play Horn, okay, you play Mobile Legends, League of Legends. There's so many similar kind of games. So technically speaking, the core concept or the genre can be the same, but you just need to have your own twist of the game. Yeah, so that you won't have a problem with that. Yeah, and if you're gonna say like copyright, then how about racing games, right? They're all cars racing. Then how do you copyright something like that concept of racing each other? Right. So yeah, so I think like you shouldn't worry about too much about copyright unless as long as you are not copying 100% of the levels, of the stages, and also the game mechanic. Okay, now make sure you have something that's different yourself. Yeah.
All right. So thank you so much. Another question, sir. This one is also from our participants. What are some challenges that you have faced in the game development industry, and how did you cope up with those challenges, especially with the continuous emergence of technologies and advancement?
Challenges. Well, it depends on which part that you are referring to. Technical challenge wise, it's always there, okay, because the technology gets changes and sometimes the platform owner changes stuff. Okay. I suppose that you just need to be on top of the game and adopt whatever that's thrown at you, okay, as the time goes, and learn the necessary skills as it goes. Or if you have the resources, you hire people to do people who has the experience or skill to do certain things for you. Okay. And as business, there's always challenges with business. So for example, hiring the people that has the skill, the right skills that you need for your game, or making sure that the company has enough money to pay for everything. It needs to have enough runway. You need to balance it, because if you are the first time, if you are making game for the very, very first time and trying to sell it, you have to remember that if you don't finish your game, or should I say, if you don't put your game up for sale, you would have no income at all. Right? So the key there is to make sure you ship. Yeah. If you don't ship, there's nothing. Yeah. If you ship it, there's still chance. Okay. Maybe it doesn't make a lot of money, but at least there's some money coming in. Okay. At least that's a first step. So making sure that you actually ship is important. Yeah.
All right. So thank you so much, sir. Another question. What are your tips for career shifters or job seeker that would like to try or be a part to gaming industry, and where can we start?
Okay, so it depends on how big is the shift that you're trying to do. Okay, if the shift is big, then of course that's going to be a little bit more difficult. But for those who wanted to have easier way, assuming that you already graduated, since you are shifting, so technically you're probably graduated, you can try several methods. So number one is Bethesda actually has game programming NC3 and game 2D game art, 3D game art NC3. Yeah. So it's possible to enroll those courses to learn how to do it. Okay. And these are, of course, like in cooperation with GDAP. So GDAP actually made the initial form, but I think it's long overdue for some updates. Okay. Number two is, like I said earlier, okay, be curious. So try to go into online and try to study there's actually a lot of online tutorials that can help you learn. So if you are a programmer, you already know basic programming, okay, and you want to be a programmer in game, then just go to, for example, Unity. Okay, there's Learn Unity services which you can enroll and learn how to build games. Okay, it's official online tutorial from the game engine themselves that teaches you. Unreal also have the same thing, except that usually in the Philippines, we don't use Unreal that much because Unreal is very heavy. So you need a very powerful computer to run it. And also your player tends to need to have a better computer to run the game that you have. And that's why most of the people would choose using an engine that's lighter. So you start by studying the engine that's lighter. And Unity actually use C#. Okay, so with the tutorials help, you should be able to learn. Okay, and for artists, then of course learn how to draw. Okay, that's the basics. Yeah, and you can actually if you want to learn 3D, you can actually try by starting from easier ones such as Blender. Especially it's free. Yeah, it's open source. Yeah, so you can practice there because again, the basic principle of the art itself is the same no matter what tool that you use. So you shouldn't be overly tool dependent. So there are a lot of tutorial for Blender itself also that you can start with. Yeah. And of course, if none of those
Right, so
are
what,
your thing,
what
you for QA, you just need to have a passion for game, and you have to be very detail oriented. Okay, so look into all the details, okay, step by step, looking at things. Yeah, so that's what it needs. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for that interesting insight. So let's proceed to our next question. With the increasing popularity of games, particularly on mobile devices, do you believe that mobile gaming has the potential to surpass PC gaming as the dominant platform in the future?
It does not have the potential because it already did. It's a past tense. It already happened. Currently, mobile game market is already bigger. Yeah. It's actually the biggest market for games right now. Yeah, bigger than PC, bigger than console. Yeah. Especially in the Philippines, we are 80% mobile. Yeah, 80% of the revenue from game came from mobile. Didn't come from the PC, didn't come from the console. Yeah. So hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, I think so, sir. Up next is that how important is multiplayer functionality in games, and what are some effective ways to design and implement multiplayer modes?
Okay, so number one is it depends on what kind of game you're trying to make. Not all the games needs multiplayer. Okay, it really depends on the game and the purpose. Okay, so there are many games that does very, very well, but doesn't have multiplayer. Okay, so it's not a requirement. Okay, however, if you really want to build one, then I would suggest start with existing tools. Okay, don't try to build it ground up, especially you're doing it at the very, very first time. Okay, because no experience, and actually multiplayer is a very hard route when it comes to programming. Okay, there's a lot of headaches that you have to do, and also it doesn't help that our internet sometimes is not very stable, not very good. So when you test, there might be issues. Sometimes it actually works, sometimes it doesn't work, and you don't know whether it's your code, it's the server, or is it the internet. Okay, so there are issues like that. But start with third-party tools. So for example, try Photon. Okay, so Photon is a very good tool to start doing multiplayer games. Learn how to do multiplayer game. However, Microsoft also have their own tools to help you build multiplayer for Azure. So Azure PlayFact actually has tools to help you. Yeah, and I heard recently, just a few days ago, from Amazon that they are also trying to build something like that. So there are definitely tools that can help you build multiplayer games. Yeah, if you really need to. For Steam, it has, but Steam is not I wouldn't consider the tool that they have on Steam a real 100% traditional multiplayer. They just did something very clear to make it work. Yeah, and the downside with Steam is if you use the API for the Steam for multiplayer, it's only limited to Steam. Yeah, you can only play. Multiplayer will only work with people who's on the Steam also, but not other places. Yeah. All right.
All right. And so in connection to that question, we have a follow-up question here. Are mobile games more profitable compared to PC games and console games?
It would depend on your definition of profitable. In terms of revenue generated, yes, right now mobile generates more revenue than the other two. Okay, but in terms of profitability, it really depends on what kind of game. There are a lot of games still very profitable on console and on PC, and also nowadays there's a blur on different platforms because there are games that are multi-platform. Okay, so for example, Genshin Impact, you can play it on your phone. You can play on tablet, but you can also play on PC, right? So how do you count that? Right. So yeah, it's a little bit hard because you're actually the same account, the same game that you're playing. Yeah. And you pay in one place, but you can actually use it in another place, right? In another platform, sorry. You pay on PC, and then whatever that you buy actually gets carried to your mobile. So it's kind of hard to say that. Yeah.
Ayan. So thank you for sharing that, sir. We have another question here. Any tips on resources where beginners can learn game development, like online training sites dedicated to game developers?
Earlier, I mentioned if you already know programming and want to be a programmer, because that's usually required in order to be really a game developer. So yeah, you can go to Unity, okay, and they have tutorial there. You just follow the tutorial, okay, and learn how to do it. However, if you're someone who doesn't know programming, okay, like zero programming knowledge, and want to learn how to program simple stuff so that you can eventually migrate to something harder, there is a website called 𝗏𝗏𝗴𝗏, okay, that you can try out. So the website is basically teaches you how to code, but at the same time you're playing a game. So it's a game that uses that's designed to teach you programming. Yeah.
All right. So thank you, sir. We still have some questions po. Here's the next one. What are some of the best game engines and development tools available for game developers, and what are some factors to consider when selecting them?
There's actually a lot of engines, but of course, right now in the market, the most popular one is Unity. Okay, due to it's easy to access. You don't need to have a very powerful computer to run that. Okay, and of course, it's free for those who want to learn how to use it or just make simple products, simple game. Okay. You can use it easily. Okay, that's definitely the number one. Okay, and Unreal is actually very similar in a sense of like the market situation with a Unity, but the downside is, of course, it requires a much more powerful computer. Therefore, less people use it. Of course, not everybody have 32 gig RAM, and then with a 3060 about GTX about to do all of those things. Yeah, there are also other game engines that are smaller, like 𝗶𝗵𝗂𝗧, 𝗏𝗏𝗃, and even like libGDX. Okay. And there are definitely more smaller ones. But you don't have to stick to. If you really just want to make game, the important thing is to choose a game engine that's suitable for the type of game that you are going to make. Of course, you're not going to use a 2D game engine to try to make a 3D shooting game, right? It's not a very good way to do it. So you have to study a bit, like which one is the best for whatever that you are trying to make. Okay, then you have a list of those that meets your criteria, then you choose which one seems to be easier to learn. Yeah. However, Unity being the biggest tends to be easier to learn because it has a lot of online resources. Like in the forum, everybody's talking about it. Right? If you choose a very small engine brand, chances are not a lot of people using it. But if you have questions or you have problems, it's harder to get an answer. And there's less resources that you were able to find about it. Yeah. And of course, another is most of the industry professionals are using. Right? So it's easier for you in the future when you want to find a job related because you already use the same using. Yeah.
All right, sir. There's still a lot of questions that are going in, so I'll be reading some of the questions that hasn't been answered. Po. The next one is, in your experience, how long do games take to develop in a program?
It depends on the kind of game that you are trying to make. right? Earlier we said like big games, like Cyberpunk, Last of Us, they can take 3 years, they can take 5 years. Okay, if a little bit faster, maybe 2. Okay, but that's very, very rare. Yeah. Like earlier this month, I actually heard an indie game that took 7 years. Yeah. So it really depends on how big the game is. But if you're just going to make something very simple, for example, like Flappy Bird, you can do that in a day. Right? So it really depends on the complexity of the game that you're trying to create. If you are a game that has an open world, then definitely you're going to spend a lot of time. Yeah. But if your game only has 10 levels, of course, it's going to be faster to make, right? Compared to something that's 200 levels. Yeah. So it really depends on the scale, of your game design. Yeah. What's the scope?
All right, sir. Here's another question. What systems do you use to create game concepts and story characters?
Can you define system, or it's like a workflow?
Yeah.
Are they referring to a workflow?
I think so, sir. Yeah.
Well, technically speaking, I'm not exactly an artist, but when we're creating concepts, usually the designer is not the one who draw. He's the one who came up with a rule of the world, right, of the game, and how the game should look, how the game should feel. So the designer is the one that communicates with usually the concept artist. Okay. And they would discuss like, he would basically tell, I think the world feels like this, etc. And usually they would give them some reference, okay, that they found online. So it needs to have this particular feel, the clothes is like this, and like that. And then the concept artist, is the one who tries to consider all the criteria and then come out with a character that fits the feeling of whatever the designer have asked. Yeah, and of course they go through a lot of iterations, a lot of tweaks. Right? It's usually not like one time that you got it correct. Right? You have to keep changing. So it depends on both sides, like how good the designer is at communicating what he really want and feel should be, and also how good that artist at perceiving those informations and translating it to a visual thing.
All right, so that's a wonderful insight, sir. So let's just get over sa remaining questions that we have in our chat box. Here's another one. Will indie pixel game go out of style as the game trend began to lean in 3Ds?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
Will indie pixel game go out of style as the game trend began to lean in 3Ds?
Not really. Yeah, there's always market for 2D. Yeah, I mean, we've been making 2D games and pixel games in a market for the longest time, but it's still there, always will be there. Yeah. There is difference in terms of production though. If you have noticed that some of the game or even animates that you see that looks like 2D are actually 3D. Yeah, but it's the style that they do to make it looks like 2D. But in reality, at the back end, it's actually 3D. Yeah, simply because 3D is easier to change and modify. Yeah, and once you have the 3D, you can pose it any way that you like. Unlike 2D, right? You have to redraw or change certain parts. It's kind of hard. But 3D is like a puppet. You can change it. Yeah. However, like the style itself, the 2D style itself, it's unlikely to go out. Yeah.
All right. Ayan. So here's another question. Will games in metaverse be the future of gaming?
Sorry, games and metaverse?
Yeah. Will games in metaverse be the future of gaming po? That's the question.
I would say half yes and no, because it depends on what's your definition of metaverse. Okay, and a lot of people define it different ways. So it's not exactly a very conclusive. It's just a term that people like to throw around. Yeah. But games definitely would keep on moving forward, and if being immersive is part of the criteria, then it will be even more immersive. Yeah, so there's no doubt about that. But would it have to be part of the metaverse? Not necessary.
All right. And so here's I think the last question that we have. How much do game concept artists earn on average? So they need to have an idea though, sir.
It depends on the company that you work for and how good that you are. Okay, if you are newbies, that you say you are very, very new, probably your starting will probably be around 20 plus. Okay, but if you are seniors, that's a different story. Yeah, if you're a senior concept artist for, let's just say, a AAA company, that can easily go like 70, 80, or even 100. Yeah.
All right. So thank you, sir. Here's some questions po na nakuha namin sa ating Facebook Live. Since the shutdown of Adobe Flash, what is the most used alternative for it?
Sorry, I'm actually not very good with Tagalog. So you might have to
All right.
translate the
Okay.
first part
Okay.
for me.
The question was, since the shutdown of Adobe Flash, what is the
Okay.
most used alternative for it?
Alternative for Flash, are you referring to using it as an animation tool or making games? They are two different questions.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
so
think, sir,
if you're talking about animation, using Flash for animation purposes, of course, there's Adobe Animate. Okay, that's technically it's a rebranded Flash, basically. Yeah. And then there's, of course, always Toon Boom that you can use to make animations. Yeah. But for games, we pretty much don't use any of those tools that much anymore, because most of the game engines allow us to build no matter most of the game engines, the bigger game engines do allow us to build 2D directly in it already. Yeah, and we can animate directly inside the engine, or there are third-party tools that we can use to make animations, such as Spine. Right? So that's one of the tools that can be used. And if you're a 2D game, well, because Flash is mainly for 2D. Yeah, so there are still a lot of games that use sprite sheets. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I think we have covered all the questions from our participants. So just in case, if you have any questions, we'll be happy to just collect it and forward it to the GDAP, and then we'll respond to you in some means. Because at this moment, we are running out of time, and of course, we have to wrap it up. So once again, thank you very much, po, Sir Chen, for that fruitful discussion. I'm sure that our participants have gained more insights about game development industry, and of course, somehow spark their interest in this industry. So at this point, let me share my screen for the next part of our program. So at this point, we would like to, of course, award this certificate of appreciation to our resource speaker. So this certificate is proudly presented to Solon Chen in grateful acknowledgement of the invaluable service rendered as a resource speaker of the webinar entitled Intro to Game Development and Career Opportunities of the Department of Information and Communications Technology, Region 5, Camarines, held on April 28, 2022 via Zoom video conferencing in Facebook Live, signed by our OIC Regional Director, Carmela P. Valencia. So once again, let's give a round of applause to our speakers, Sir Solon Chen. So you can send in your heart reactions, to show our appreciation to Sir Solange and of course to the rest of the GDAP team. So still have some announcement to make before we finally conclude this program. So as mentioned earlier, we will be raffling some Steam key, of course, courtesy of GDAP. So ayan, let's proceed to ano. But before that, we would like to invite everyone po, to those who are interested to join the Indie Games Group Philippines on Discord. So you may go to this link po provided or flash on the screen. I'll just send the link po on our chat box later on. So you can join via Discord. So if you want to know more about GDAP programs or activities, upcoming activities po, you can feel free to join here so that you get acquainted more about the industry. So yan, we've been receiving a lot of hearts and dito. Before we proceed to our raffle and my colleague is preparing the wheel of names, may we request po Sir Chen, of course, to have a photo opportunity with you in this virtual floor. Yeah. So let me just prepare that. And just checking some technical error here. Okay. Ma'am Lights, can you make us co-host po so that we can open our camera po? I think Ma'am is having a problem with the camera po of Ma'am PD. Yeah. So yan, while waiting, again, I'd like to invite everyone, those who are interested po in joining the Indie Games Group Philippines. They are on Discord. So here's the link where you can join their group po and know more about their programs that might interest you or might benefit you in the future. Or if you're really interested in pursuing a career in the game development industry. And so let's check if we can, 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃, can you please check if you can already turn on your camera? Yeah, so I think it's working now. Right, so let's just have a quick photo opportunity with our speakers or Solange before we Ma'am Lights, can you just facilitate the ano po, capture kasi naka-share siya. All right, so thank you very much po, Light, and of course, thank you very much once again, Sir Chen. So let's proceed to the continuation of our program. So as mentioned earlier, we will be raffling some items, of course, courtesy of GDAP. So just quick information about the items to be raffled. So it's a Steam key po for the Bayani. This is a fighting game po, created, of course, by Filipino developers. So later on, to those who are winners po, we will be providing the link where you can download the game and where you can use the Steam key po that we will be providing. So for this one, let's so I hope everyone was able to fill out the attendance link. So we will be raffling at least 10 winners for this one. Yan, I guess we're ready po with the wheel of names. Can we have it po so that we can get started po with our raffle promo? So yan, we have really a lot of participants checking in. We have 438 in the Zoom room and we almost have 100 plus viewers po on our social media channels. So yeah, I guess we can start with our raffle. So for our first winner, so my colleagues will just take note po of the names that we will be able to pick po. Yan, so medyo marami lang po siya, pero let's Then, so for our first winner, let's so that's Ma'am Charmaine G. Gallons. I'll just locate your details po on our registration form so that I can be able to provide you the Steam key, courtesy of course by GDAP. Ayan. Ayan, so let's proceed with our second winner. Ayan. Yan, so sino kaya po ang next? Yan, I think hindi yata na fill out maayos yung attendance link. So let's have another winner po for this one. Let's roll again po the Ayan, so we have our second winner. So that's Sir Steven. Then i-note na lang po namin yung mga names. Right, so let's keep the ball rolling po. And let's proceed with our next winner.
If you want to take full control of your
Yan, so to those who are using Steam, alam po nila kung paano gamitin. But anyway, we'll just provide an instruction then on how to use this Steam and how you will be able to use the game po or play the game for free. Yan, so we have our next winner, Ma'am Shaina. Yes, ayan. And so I think meron siyang class dito. Okay po, let's keep the ball rolling. Our next winner, our fourth winner. Yeah, so we have Sir or Ma'am LG. Niya. For our fifth winner po, let's and so again po, the evaluation link will be provided a little later lang po. We just have to finish drawing the line. Right, so our next winner is Sir Armando V. Nevera. Right, so let's have our sixth winner. So if you are in the Zoom, kindly make yourself acknowledge na lang. Ikaw po yung nabuno. And so up next, we have Sir Sean Patrick Romblon. So for our seventh winner, okay po, tuloy-tuloy na po tayo. Yes po, we will be providing certificate to those who will accomplish the evaluation form to be given po a little later lang po. Right, so we have Ma'am Hazel May D. Astillero as our seventh winner. Right, sige po, let's have our last two winner po for this raffle. And so we have Sir Dave Carlo as our eighth winner. Last two. Yan, so of course, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Yan, so we have Sir Jeffrey P. Pederio. So for our last one, so sino pa yung lucky last one po nating winner? Yan, si Sir or Ma'am 𝗙𝗂𝗧 𝗥𝗲𝗄𝗏. Ayan, so meron na po tayong 10 winners of the Steam key, of course, courtesy of GDACT. So later on, I'll just provide to you po the Steam key and a little instruction on how you'll be able to download and use po yung inyong Steam key. And of course, play the game by yan. Of course, made proudly by Filipino developers. So, yan. Think it's time for us to provide the most exciting part, of course, this evaluation form. So, accomplish this evaluation form po for you to be issued with digital certificate. So, important note, this form will only be open until 11:59 p.m. Today. So, make sure you have submitted your evaluation po, and make sure that correct information is entered on the evaluation form para hindi po tayo magkaroon ng problem in terms of the details that should appear on your digital certificates. So yan, so to those who were not able to win, better luck next time. And of course, I think hopefully this is just some of the first few activities that we will be having, of course, in partnership with GDAP. So yan, once again po, we would like to thank Sir Solon Chen for accepting our invitation despite of their busy schedules. So before we formally end, Sir Chen, do you have any last words or parting message po to all of our participants, especially to those who are really interested in the game development industry? Go ahead, sir.
Just a few things. Number one, games are fun, but make sure you play in moderation. Too much of anything is bad. Too much water can actually kill you also. So yeah, just know like when you should do it and when you shouldn't do it. Yeah, you yourself know it better than anyone else. Yeah, and game development is a really exciting field for anyone who really wants to create a dream that doesn't exist in real world. So if that's what you like, then yeah, this is a place to be. Yeah.
Ayan, so we create our own reality in the game developing industry. So once again, in behalf of the ICT Region 5 Camarines Tour, we would like to thank Sir Solon Chen, the Vice President of the Game Developers Association of the Philippines, for accepting our invitation. And of course, the rest of the GDAP team who might be here in the Zoom. I've seen Sir Walter kanina. Thank you very much po, Sir Walter, for the Steam Key, sponsored, of course, by GDAP. And hopefully, we get to collaborate with you more in providing awareness in terms of the game development industry. Kasi in the ICT, we also really promote the different ICT industries we have in the Philippines, so that we get to build more talents and attract more investors, and of course that will help the economy of the Philippines in general. So once again, thank you very much for Sir Chen, and of course the rest of the GDAP team. So yeah, and of course our participants who joined us here in the Zoom room, and to our Facebook Live viewers, and to the watchers from our YouTube channel. So again, I'd like also to invite everyone to please like and follow our Facebook page, the ICT Region 5 Camarines Tour, so that you'll be updated po on our next event. We will still have a lot of events, especially this coming ICT month po. And of course, i-subscribe nyo rin po yung aming YouTube channels, just in case you'll need to go back to this session. So feel free to browse sa aming YouTube channel so that you have to replay this event just in case may na-miss out po kaya. So once again, thank you very much po sa lahat, and of course sa ating speaker. Yan, I think it's all good on our end. So once again, here's the evaluation form. We'll just flash it po until our participants have able to accomplish po the evaluation form. So once again po, thank you very much. So this has been Ralph from the ICT R5 Comsur, giving you all po a pleasant afternoon, and see you po again on our next webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sir Chen. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for inviting. Bye-bye.
Bye, sir. Thank you po.
𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏